lucky that those of us who live at the end of the road, you know, we can still get out and take walks and have fun, and we that and bring some fun to you guys as well. So what's happening there, James?
Well, I think we've got the camera resolved. Several cameras loaded up on the screen here, and I have a feeling we might be taxing our software system a little bit here. So probably not a huge deal, but we just want to make sure we're keeping it going. So I think we're going to be okay. Kate will come out and let me know if anything changes here. So
I see you now. I see the people now. We got it now.
Yeah, I think we're back online now. So well, we'll start over again. Howdy, everybody. So I think we should have picture now. So yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend. Like we were saying earlier, twice a year we get the boom truck out here, and we clean the cameras, but we come out and all the bird feeder stuff that goes on the nest. And it can be quite a chore sometimes, especially putting it up. Taking it down is normally pretty quick. Putting it up last year, it actually took us a couple days because we invented this new contraption and added an entire new perch and feeding station. But that's temporary, that's only for the winter, so we'll be taking that here on Saturday. So we'll spend most of the day on Saturday doing that. And then we've got Mrs. Goose Decoy here, and she will go up on top of the nest to keep away any geese from trying to lay a nest or set in the nest. And why is that such a big deal, Suzanne?
Well, it's really interesting. Only once in the last almost 25 years that we've lived here have we had a goose actually take over the osprey's nest. But they want to do that. They love to, you know, they're not that great a nest builder themselves, so they run around looking to steal nests.
Oh, okay.
And that's a alluring nest. So one year we did have a pair of Canada geese take over, and believe me, it was no show because when the goslings got large enough, they literally fell out of that tall nest and waddled on down the road to the river. So it was kind of an uneventful time for us, and we were angry that they took it from the ospreys. But then a couple years ago, we had a goose, as you well know and well remember, lay an egg in the nest the very day that Harriet came back. And Harriet was having nothing of Mrs. Goose. She scurried her right out of there. But then Harriet was left with a goose egg in her nest. And believe it or not, I have read that in the literature that geese have actually hatched under ospreys. Ospreys have incubated, and of course, once the gosling chick is there, it's kind of a death sentence because they don't eat the same things, and there's really nothing for it. But the osprey never did throw the egg out. Luckily, in our case, a raven came and took it away. At any rate, we don't want to have that kind of pandemonium going on, so for the last couple of years, we have experimented with Mrs. Decoy. And the first year, Sterling and Jake had this crazy fishing pole deal all lined up. It was actually very clever. The problem was is that Mrs. Goose is hollow, is she not? Can you knock on her there?
Yeah, she's definitely hollow. You can see kind of underneath here, just kind of the plastic, and we've got her wired to a board right now, but very lightweight, yes.
Yeah, and what happened was is even though they had her up there, she didn't last long with the wind. She flipped right over. I think she still served the purpose. You know, the geese were stayed away, but she sure looked crazy. So this is your contraption that you did last year. Can you explain it Jay?
Yeah, so Sterling helped out with this. He kind of created a board with some bevels on it, wired the goose down, and then we've got 3 different sets of ropes here, and we basically take this up and position the platform just so on the nest and get that dialed in, and then we'll string these ropes down off the nest and tie them down on the rail or down where the cleats are for the bird feeder ropes, and we'll lash those in place so it won't blow around and won't move around at all. But then of course it's much easier when we're ready to take the goose off of there. We just untie the ropes and pull one of the ropes down, and the other ones come down the other side of the nest, and it's easy peasy. So works out pretty well.
Yeah, I was surprised that the ropes didn't get hung up at all in the nest material. It's such a stickly thing up there, but you kept them well away. It didn't get hung up, did it?
Yeah, interestingly enough, and you can kind of see this from the camera, but from down below, the nest looks like it's really spiky and lots of limbs and things sticking up. But when you get up on top, it's actually quite flat, especially after the winter when when the birds have been gone for 6 months or it's actually pretty flat up there, and so it just slides right on off for the most part.
Yeah, we're looking at the back of the nest right now. So you have 3 strings, one fore and aft, and then one on the port, it looks like, huh?
Yeah, and I think the way we oriented this last year was the head kind of faces kind of to the towards the camera a little bit, perhaps. I'm not quite sure. We kind of had it at a little bit of an angle, so the head was sort of straight towards the camera, and then the ropes came down on those 3 sides, because we can't really. It doesn't make any sense to put a rope down between the perch on the back side necessarily. I think 2 ropes would probably suffice, but we have that 3rd one in there just in case the wind catches the corner.
Yeah, very good. So, James, to your right there, you have a new camera, do you not? Can you explain what's going to happen with that?
Well, this is one of those blessing and a curse type of situations. So about, what was it, maybe a month ago, our ranch camera went down. So it got frozen. It technically still works. It is still on, but the zoom motor, the motor that controls the mechanical lens for the zoom feature, got stuck. And it didn't get stuck as it should have in a wide zoom position. It got stuck in a very narrow close-up zoom position. So I think I was able to use it once while you guys had the hawks out here. I was able to somehow find you guys with that little narrow beam of the lens and zoom in on the hawks with that camera, but that's the last time we've used that camera. And so it is the oldest camera in the fleet here at Dunrovin, and so I'm looking forward to changing it out actually, because it's actually the lowest resolution camera as well. So when we upgrade this camera, we got a used one. We got this one on eBay, and it's actually very similar to the Nest camera that we have right now, and the resolution should be as good or better than the Nest camera, and it'll have all the same features, so it should be pretty easy to control. And in fact, it's a slight, from a software perspective, it's a slight upgrade from the Nest camera, but the differences are pretty minor other than that. So anyway, we're looking forward to getting this up on the ranch pole and replace that camera. So hopefully it serves us well for another 2 or 3 years if possible.
Yeah. So you're going to rent a lift piece of equipment. You're not going to have Ray come with his truck. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, we've had some challenges getting our previous truck. So for years past, we've used I think his name is Bob, we call him Bucket Truck Bob. he comes out and brings his, he has a tree trimming service. Him and his sons run a service, and he'll bring his big old truck out, and it's got a great boom lift, but it's a pretty small bucket. It fits 2 people in there, but we're cozy. There's social distancing going on in that bucket, I can tell you that. Anyway, we've had some challenges scheduling with him in previous years because of get and drive it around, and it's a big platform. The platform is bigger than this table, so it can fit 3 people in there. And we used that last year for the banding of the chicks. We had at least 3 people up there at one point. So yeah, it's
actually a better deal in many ways.
It is. It costs about the same amount of money, but we can have it for the entire day, and it's a lot more flexible in what we can do, and it's a lot faster moving it around too. So, and we don't have to do bucket truck yoga getting in and out of that basket. So.
Yeah. So, if people want to watch you do that this weekend, James, what's your proposed schedule? This is going to be delivered tomorrow afternoon, right? Right,
yeah. The truck will get here, and they typically park down at the end of the lane, and they'll unload the lift there, and then they drive it down, and they'll probably park it along the arena fence here. And then Saturday morning, we'll go ahead and start the thing up, or I might even bring it in Friday night, and we'll set it up next to the pole here for the ranch, for the nest pole, and we'll get that dialed in. I'm debating whether or not I think that maybe I'll replace the ranch cam first, and that'll allow that to get turned on and ready to go, and then you can watch all the action from the new ranch cam at the nest. So maybe we'll stage it that way.
I would vote for that. That sounds great.
So we'll get started. We'll get started around 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. Let the sun come out and warm things up a little bit. And then, we'll get started around 10. I think I've talked Chris into tagging along with me. He says he's not afraid of heights. So especially when it comes to taking down the bird feeding structure up there, it's really handy to have 2 people. I did it by myself last year, but it's a little easier and safer with 2 people. So it'll be nice to have Chris with me, and I'll be mic'd up. I'll kind of walk you through what I'm doing each step of the way. And we'll probably be on and off the mics for, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 hours. We'll see how it goes. Might go pretty quick this year. We've kind of got a system down.
No, this will be fun, James. I'm going to ask you to go back into your office there and switch to the Nest camera. Then maybe we could talk about the bird feeding station that we put up there this year and what we learned and what things you might have in mind for next year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll head on in, and we'll sign off later. But bye from James for now. I'll be back in the tech room.
Yeah. So James is going to switch the broadcast to the Nest camera, which will then allow us kind of talk about the bird feeding station, which you are seeing here from the backside. And, our reason that we wanted this feeding station in this configuration was to give a more straight-on view from the web camera, but we also tried to hide the ropes and a variety of things like that. So, these things are always a hit and miss with whenever we're at, trying something new here. You try it, and you see how it's going to go, and you see if it doesn't go. But I think we miscalculated in a couple of ways, and I would encourage you to chime in on the chat so that you can tell us your impressions of the Nest camera and the way that we have the bird feeders right now. I do think that we've gotten more sun and we can see better photos of the birds. I also think that the fact that the bird feed are kind of over the nest means that a lot of the seeds have been scattered to the nest, and we've had a lot of birds just sort of hanging out on the nest, much like the starlings are doing right now. So momentarily, James will switch the broadcast.
Yeah, so I've got our backup nest camera showing right now, which is a nice wide view of the nest. We put up this camera about a year ago or so, and we did it because during peak viewing season, when the osprey are here, if something goes wrong with the camera, we often can't get up there and take care of it. So we had an extra cable up there, and I added a smaller camera. It's not motorized or anything, but it shows this kind of wide angle view, and it's a beautiful picture. So this would be the backup. If we have a problem with our motorized PTZ camera, we'd switch to this view.
Now, the nice thing about this particular view, like you say, it's a really wide view. You can see the entire mountain behind the nest, and you can also see top of the bird feeders better than you can from the actual nest camera. You know, James, one of the things that I notice is sometimes during a high wind
at this location, and I've seen it move so much that it can have a dramatic effect on how we're viewing this and what you end up seeing behind the feeding station.
Do you see the need for adding anything to try to prevent that in the future? Is that just something we need to
open through, and it can move things around pretty good.
So, James, one of the things that all of us who love watching the nest camera bird feeders have been complaining about is that with the nest camera right now, we can't focus in closely on top. And a number of the birds are landing on that board that holds the nest bird feeders. So have you given any thought as to how to be able to lower that a little bit for next year?
Well, I think, it's going to be a little bit tricky because we've got a lot of rigging hardware that's behind this. I know we showed it when we put it up last year, but there's a lot of pulleys and stuff that hang down to hide all of that rigging behind the board. So right now, as it stands, we've got maybe an inch or two before you start seeing metal parts and pieces and knots and all that kind of stuff. So the board itself could be maybe shaved down a little bit. I guess the other option is we can lower the board a little bit more from where it is, or change that perch piece up on top where that bird is sitting right now. The other option is to come up with a completely different pulley system, and maybe if this was going to be more permanent, we might have G3 do some welding and put in some pulleys inside of a piece of steel channel or something, and then screw some wood on top of that, and that might make it a little bit more lower profile. So it's a little bit tricky. We'll probably mock it up. Before I put this up here, I had this board all mocked up on the ground, and we tested things out, and we'll probably have to do the same thing again next year.
Yeah, I'm also wondering if maybe next year something simple like getting shorter seed feeders, and filling them more often, twice a day instead of just once a day, for example. That they wouldn't hang down as far, so we could bring the whole mechanism down. The suet feeders, for example, have a considerable distance, but they can come down as those longer feeders.
Yeah. I wonder if we get stuff that is a little bit, maybe it could support the same volume, but in a shorter, wider configuration. I don't know. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky doing the. Doing less seed, because most of the seed we put in the morning, it gets if it gets taken up, it's taken up during those peak feeding times, right? So we might run out even if we hit the evening session. So we'll have to think about that for sure. I think might even take some measurements in how much seed these hold and how well they're supporting it. One thing I noticed this year that was a problem is that the largest feeder that we have here with the mixed bird seed, when the wind blows, that thing tips sideways and all the seed starts dumping out the bottom. And so we've lost a lot of seed on the ground because of wind this year.
Yeah, very interesting. So maybe, the bird feeders on the bench are more squat and larger around. Maybe we need to go to something like that.
Yeah, I think that could be the case.
Yeah, well, we can try various things, but I'd sure like to hear from our members if they have any other suggestions, as long as you're going to be going up there. So if you have any ideas as to what we can do to improve the viewing, do let us know. And it's very exciting this time of year, James. I'm sure you remember that last year we had to plow the arena just to get the bucket trucks in there. There was so much snow, and this year spring has really, knocked on the door loudly.
Yeah, it's pretty stark contrast to what we had last year. Last year in late February and early March, we just got pummeled with snow. So this year, not so much. It was definitely colder, but yeah, we don't have to plow a trench back to the nest this year. So that's nice.
Every year is different. And by the way, James, I'm noticing there is some baling twine up there on that nest. So while you're up there this weekend, be sure to clean out all that baling twine that you might find. You sure want to keep that away from the ospreys.
Yeah, and we're gonna have the guys go out in the field, and this might be a good excursion for me and Kate and Boona to get out in the field, and we can go do a walk around and look for twine that may have fallen out of the hay truck. We do a pretty good job of keeping track of all that stuff, but we just want to make sure there's no twine in the areas that we have responsibility for that they can see and pick up. So yeah, that's definitely a big concern.
Yeah, very definitely. Well, unless I see some questions here from our members, I'm going to say have fun this weekend, and it's very exciting to be making preparations for Harriet and Hal. They're going to be welcomed with open arms, and we always have our fingers crossed. One never knows whether they will come or not, but we're sure hoping.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it'll be great. So yeah, join us this weekend around 10 o'clock ranch time, and we'll get started cleaning and putting some new cameras up and taking the perches down. So it should be a fun day, and maybe we'll celebrate with a tasty beverage afterwards or something. If it runs out, we'll grab a picnic table and have lunch or something.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us, and take care of one another. We all know that our country's going through something quite dramatic right now, and I'm just really grateful that we have you and that we all can share Dunrovin and the wonderful birds. They are not involved, or horses are not involved, and life goes on here at Dunrovin, and we're sure glad you're joining us. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next Tuesday. We will be hosting Hobie Hare for Welcoming Spring. And, of course, Mackenzie will be here Sunday afternoon, and we will rebroadcast that session a week from today. So still things happening at Dunrovin. And James and I are putting together some ideas for how to proceed with a reduced ranch operation, since the coronavirus has closed down our ranch activities. But the birds don't care, and the deer don't care, the raccoons and the coyotes and the flying squirrels, they're all here, so be sure to stick with us. Thank you all, and I'll say goodbye.
All right, so long, everybody.